Several years ago, a friend of mine called me. He was having a problem with digestion and elimination. We, at the time, talking about my wife and I, were the owners of a small herb shop in North Raleigh. It was actually called the Raleigh Herb Shop. Now, it's been 20 years ago, is what I'm going to be talking about. Part of what I did throughout my career was I worked in natural health, and I had attained certification as a certified natural health professional. Boy, that's a lot to say. So instead, it was called a CNHP. So this friend of mine who lived way up north in the cold country, he called me, said, I've got this reoccurring problem, and he said, I just can't seem to go on a regular basis. Now, this is actually a very common problem, and it's very common, especially in our society and the type of food we eat. Everything is highly processed, white flour, white sugar, all that good stuff. And I'm not going to do a seminar on those things right now. I'm going to talk about one thing that can be very beneficial. So, my friend's name was Mitch. And I said to him, Mitch, I said, you need to meet my Latin friend, Cascara Sagrada. And he said, who? Cascara Sagrada. I said, if you'll start taking this and just follow the instructions on the bottle, I said, it may solve your problem. It's helped a lot of people. As a matter of fact, in our health food store, in our herb shop, this was one of our top selling products. Cold and cleanse products were some of our top selling products. So anyhow, he began to take this Cascara Sagrada. Now, here comes the disclaimer, okay? First off, I am not at this time selling any products. Our herb shop was many, many years ago. We are retired. I don't currently sell any products. Might in the future. I've thought about it, but I don't know if I want to get back into the product business. Because these products that I'm about to tell you about, you can buy these anywhere. So here's the disclaimer. I'm not selling anything, number one. Number two, it's not approved by the FDA. Most people don't realize that the FDA is a paid subscription, and it's a very biased organization. Probably going to get in trouble for saying that. Maybe not. And you should consult, of course, your physician or your health professional. Or make your own decisions. Again, I'm just here to give you information. This is free advice. Now, this particular brand that I'm going to show you can be purchased anywhere. See if I can get it where you can see it. You can purchase this on Amazon, Walmart. Cascara Sagrada is what it's called. I'm going to give you just a very brief history on Cascara Sagrada and how it works. But up until the pharmaceutical companies took over, people would use natural remedies for common problems like this. Now, I have here in front of me a volume that typically only herbalists and CNHPs and people of that nature would have. So I'm just going to read it to you. I am not permitted to show you the cover of this book because this is inside information. But I will read to you what it says here about Cascara Sagrada. It tells you that the systems affected are the gallbladder, the intestinal system, the large intestine, and the liver. Now, what effect does Cascara Sagrada have on these areas in your body? It has a cleansing effect, a natural cleansing effect. Now, like any product that is working in these areas, you've got to be careful you don't take too much. So you follow the instructions on the bottle. And it's so simple, it's unbelievable. Now, why would I want to take this? Well, sometime back, I had a friend that went to see their doctor. And the doctor, they were telling the doctor that they had this problem with constipation. And the doctor said, take this particular laxative. And he recommended it, and it came off the shelf at a local store. And my friend said to me, what do you think about this? I said, well, let's read the ingredients. And you'd be surprised how many people don't read the ingredients. In the ingredients, it's going to shock you if you don't already know this, but in the ingredients was a compound that's extremely similar to antifreeze. I'm talking about antifreeze that you put in your car. That's right. It had part of that compound in it called antifreeze. Antifreeze that you put in your car. Now, how does it work? This product is a pharmaceutical laxative, works because it irritates and causes irritation in your intestines, and therefore they flush out. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be putting antifreeze into my body. I'm very, very careful about what I take. And so you got to think about these things. You got to read the ingredients. Cascara Sagrada comes off the bark of a particular tree. And again, I'm not recommending this brand. There are many good brands. You can go to Amazon and type in Cascara Sagrada, and there's lots of different brands. But what it will do, and what it did for my friend, let me get back to my story. My friend, he called me back. He got the Cascara Sagrada, and he called me back a few days later, and he said, "This is unbelievable." He said, "I have been irregular for years." He says, "Now I am very regular." And then several weeks later, he called me again. We always had these conversations about natural health because he had some issues. And the short story is it helped him establish regularity. He felt much better. He just said that he even thought he looked better. That's always questionable. How do you know if somebody actually looks better? But anyhow, he was very happy with the results. Now, in our health food store, our herb shop, which was called the Raleigh Herb Shop, again, we've been out of business for 20 years. But colon cleansing products were always in demand. Always in demand. I had this one lady, she was the store manager of a Harris Teeter's shopping center, supermarket rather, there in North Raleigh. She was the store manager. She was having some real issues with constipation and weight loss. And she walked through the door one day and she told me, she says, "I got this problem." And she told me what her problem was. And, she was obese also. See, a lot of people don't realize the cause of obesity. She was very obese, and she was having some real issues. So we sat down and we talked about it. And after the conversation, she decided she would try a colon cleanse product. And we had several different combinations of colon cleanse products. Some of them you would take for 7 days. Some of them you could work them over a weekend. But she decided to try one. This lady was very happy with the results. In about a month, in just a month, she had lost 35 pounds. And she started to become regular. The story went on. The story actually went on for several months. She lost a lot of weight. But see, the reason that she lost weight is because of the type of food we eat. That food gets stuck in the body. And the average person can be carrying around with them between 5 to 25 pounds of undigested, unprocessed foods. Now imagine if you're carrying around 25 pounds of undigested, unprocessed foods in your intestinal tract. You're setting yourself up for diabetes, for heart conditions, for cancer conditions, for obesity. Because if that stuff stays in your body, and if it doesn't leave the body, and you continue to eat, and you continue to put more and more food on it, you put on weight. But it's really an artificial weight because your body is not properly processing the food and flushing it out. Colon cleansing is extremely important. In a later video, we'll talk about probiotics. Now, again, I was a CNHP. I went to school, learned all this stuff, and I am claiming to be a world-famous intellectual. I'm not really that intellectual. I just read a lot of books. I had somebody tell me one day, said, "Wow, you sure?" I said, "No, I'm not really that smart. I just read a lot of books." Now, this information that I'm giving you can be found on the internet. I'm going to turn my computer back on. That's why my glasses are shining. And you can go to just type in Cascara Sagrada, and put origins of Cascara Sagrada. You're going to find positive, you're going to find negative. Now, with any product, again, the disclaimer is any product, you got to be careful you don't overuse it, you don't abuse it, that you follow the directions, and as everybody is required to say, check with your doctor. Yeah, I always say, hey, try and use some good common sense when you're doing these things. So the story goes that Cascara Sagrada was called sacred bark by the Spanish explorers who found indigenous native cultures using it and were shocked by its healing power. This gentleman talks about this 1942 book that he had discovered that gave this reference. And it was treatment for constipation it said treatment for constipation was and still is a large public health concern. Some stats put constipation as impacting as many as 25% of the Canadian population. This article is written by a Canadian author, but the same thing is true, or more so, in the United States. Okay, so you can go through these articles and you can read it, but basically here's what it was. The South American Indians and the American Indians were using Cascara Sagrada as a natural laxative to flush meat out of their system after eating large quantities of meat. It's just that simple. It is a natural laxative that grows on the tree. It even tells you in the ingredients that that it is part of, it says bark. It's the bark from a tree. And this bark cleans out your intestinal system. So there are herbal products out there that are just as good or better than the pharmaceutical products. Now, Cascara Sagrada has other benefits. It can help to flatten your stomach. It can help to tighten up your stomach muscles. Here's some of the ailments and conditions that it will treat. It can treat bile deficiency. It can help treat your colon. It's good for congestion, constipation, gallbladder, jaundice, parasites. It can flush out parasites. And is not to be used by a pregnant woman. Notice I didn't say pregnant person. I believe in the two sexes. Not to be used by a pregnant woman. So you don't do that because it could have a negative effect. Again, you're going to have to do your own research, do a little bit of reading on the internet, and there are books. I can show you this one particular book, and there's lots of books out there that are very helpful. This book I can share with you. This is not a confidential herbal book. This book here is called Practical Herbalism. Here's the author's name down here on the bottom. And there's lots of good books in the library and on the shelves. But the one that I have has got all the scientific terms in it, and I'm not supposed to show this book. But I can read from it and tell you a little bit what's in it. But here's my advice. My advice is if you're having problems with constipation, then do your own research and consider and look into a Cascara Sagrada. Again, Cascara Sagrada, you can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Walmart. You can get it from any drugstore. Follow the directions on the label. Do some reading on the internet and learn about it, and you'll find that it's very beneficial. I had clients. I had hundreds of clients when we had our health food store and our herb shop. We had hundreds of clients. We could not keep it on the shelf. If we ordered 10 bottles, it'd be gone in a day. Cascara Sagrada and other colon cleanse products were and still are extremely important. Quickly, let me say a couple of things about today's teenagers. You ever wonder why today's teenagers are obese? Think about this. 5 to 25 pounds of undigested food and protein being carried around in the body. What does the body do with this stuff? It has to create fat cells to store these additional compounds. It has to create fat cells to store this stuff. In addition, the intestines have to expand. This is why you see so many young people with large stomachs. They're constipated. They're not getting rid of the stuff. Pizza and all these foods that we eat, processed foods and the fast foods, the body doesn't know what to do with them. So again, do some research and look into Cascara Sagrada. Thanks much.